Forgotten by the stars, remembered in fire. The galaxy had moved on. Earth, once a proud member of the Galactic Union, was now a distant memory, an afterthought in the vast expanse of space. Humanity's presence had become a legend, something spoken of only in hushed tones. The once vibrant human colonies scattered across the stars were now either abandoned or forgotten, left to decay under the weight of time. The universe had grown bigger, more complex, and humanity, once seen as a potential power, was now regarded as weak, fragile, and obsolete. Far beyond the edges of human space, in a grand council hall full of the most powerful alien species, the leaders of the galaxy laughed at the very idea of humanity returning to the stage. The aliens had moved on, and to them, Earth was nothing more than a planet, lost in the shadows of the past. The Galactic Union had grown tired of humanity's unpredictable nature, its chaotic politics, and its constant bickering. To the aliens, it was clear. Humans were no longer relevant. But then came the whispers. Rumors began to spread about strange things happening in the deep reaches of space. Old human signals were flickering to life, seemingly from nowhere. It wasn't just a few stray transmissions. Entire systems were waking up, as if Earth itself was calling out across the stars. At first, no one took them seriously. The signals were dismissed as old remnants, abandoned satellites, or forgotten beacons. The galaxy had long moved past Earth's ashes, and nothing, no one, expected anything to come from humanity anymore. The Federation of Alien Species, which governed the galaxy, had little interest in Earth's long-dead remnants. However, there was one alien race that didn't take such things lightly: the Zorathians. They were a militaristic species, always alert, always seeking to maintain their dominance. When they intercepted a strange signal that was clearly human in origin, they couldn't ignore it. The signal was brief but precise, its content cryptic but unmistakably human. It sent a chill through the Zorathian command center. There was something strange about the signal. It didn't feel old. It didn't feel abandoned. The Zorathians, knowing the power of Earth's past history, began to fear that something was waking up, something they hadn't prepared for. They dispatched a small fleet to investigate, but they underestimated what they were about to face. Back on Earth, beneath layers of ice and stone, humanity's old warships began to stir. These ships had been dormant for centuries, lying in wait in forgotten bunkers beneath the planet's surface. Time had been kind to them. Though they had been abandoned for generations, the ships still held their power, dormant yet alive. Inside these ships were systems that had never fully powered down, ready for the day when they would be needed once again. The humans who still lived on Earth had long since hidden themselves from the galaxy's watchful eyes. Their numbers were small, their technology considered primitive by galactic standards, but they had not forgotten their past. They had not forgotten their power. In a secret military base deep underground, a human general stood before a large chamber filled with advanced technologies, now covered in layers of dust and rust. The chamber was dimly lit, the only light coming from the hum of old machines slowly coming back to life. The general's fingers trembled as he entered the code into a terminal that had not been touched in over a century. With a final click, the chamber doors slowly opened, revealing the hidden warships of humanity. The massive ships, once thought to be nothing more than relics, now stirred to life. The engines hummed, systems activated, and lights flickered on. The once abandoned vessels, powerful and feared across the galaxy in their time, were awakening. Outside the base, the general's heart raced as he watched the ships rise from their hidden tombs. They were no longer just machines. They were symbols of humanity's will to survive. These ships, once the pride of Earth's military might, had been preserved for a day like this. A day when humanity would need to remind the galaxy that it was not weak, nor forgotten. As the warships began to ascend into the sky, a tremor of fear spread across the galaxy. The Zorathians had already felt the first tremors of Earth's return, and they were not the only ones who had noticed. The Galactic Union, too, was watching with growing concern. The very thought of Earth's warships, once believed to be lost in time, reappearing was enough to send waves of panic throughout the galaxy. But the question on everyone's mind was this: what had triggered humanity's reawakening? Why, after centuries of silence, had the Earth decided to rise again? On the other side of the galaxy, the Zorathian fleet neared the coordinates where the mysterious signal had originated. They were cautious, knowing that something far bigger than they had imagined might be waiting for them. As they approached, their scanners picked up something massive, moving at incredible speed. They couldn't believe their eyes. The signal was not just an old relic. It was a message, a warning. The ships of the Galactic Union, still confident in their superiority, couldn't help but laugh at the idea that humanity would rise from the ashes. But as Earth's warships continued their ascent, the reality of the situation began to set in. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake. Humanity was not weak. Humanity had never been weak. The galaxy had forgotten that Earth's greatest strength was not its technology, not its military might, but its indomitable will. And now, that will was about to show the universe just how wrong they had been. As the first human warships broke through Earth's atmosphere, the distant stars began to flicker, and the galaxy held its breath. The quiet was over. The warships roared to life. Humanity was back. The warships of Earth moved steadily into the vastness of space, their dark forms cutting through the silence like ancient giants returning from a long slumber. The Zorathian fleet, which had been monitoring the situation from a safe distance, began to grow nervous. They had expected nothing more than a faint echo of a long-dead civilization, a signal that would fade away as quickly as it had appeared. But instead, the ships of Earth were rising, awakening, and revealing their incredible power. The Zorathian fleet's sensors could hardly believe what they were reading. The ships were not just intact, they were alive with the pulse of a forgotten era. As the Zorathians struggled to comprehend what they were seeing, messages began flooding the communications channels across the galaxy. The Galactic Union's most powerful fleets scrambled to understand the significance of the mysterious human warships. They had thought humanity was gone, weak, and irrelevant. Now, it was clear that Earth was anything but. Inside the human command center on Earth, the atmosphere was tense. The general who had activated the warships stood before a massive holographic display, watching as the fleet ascended. His heart raced. He had known this day would come, but he hadn't expected it to happen so soon. It had been generations since anyone had heard the roar of humanity's warships. The memories of the great battles fought in humanity's name seemed like myths now, stories passed down to the children of a forgotten civilization. Yet here they were, the ships, ready for war once again. "General," a voice broke through his thoughts. It was one of his officers, a young woman with fire in her eyes. "We've received a response from the Zorathian fleet. They're asking for clarification on the nature of our signal." The general's face hardened. "Tell them," he said slowly, "that Earth has returned, and that we're not here for peace. We've been silent for too long. Now, they will remember who we are." The officer nodded and turned to relay the message. The general watched as Earth's warships, with their immense cannons and gleaming hulls, began to leave the atmosphere and venture deeper into the reaches of space. The ships weren't just vessels. They were the legacy of humanity's survival. For centuries, Earth had been underestimated, forgotten by the galaxy's most powerful species. But those species had made a grave mistake, one that was about to come back to haunt them. In the distant corners of the galaxy, the Zorathian fleet, now in full alert, was scrambling to form a strategy. They had underestimated humanity, and they had made their first mistake. They had forgotten that humans never back down from a fight, no matter how hopeless it seemed. The Zorathians quickly realized that they were no longer dealing with a primitive species that could be crushed without a second thought. Earth's warships were powerful beyond anything they had imagined. They had not anticipated this. The Zorathians sent out a transmission to the Galactic Union, urging immediate assistance. They spoke of the return of humanity, and they begged for reinforcements. But as they waited for their allies to respond, another shocking reality set in. Earth wasn't acting alone. Hidden deep within Earth's atmosphere, buried beneath layers of rock and metal, lay a network of old satellites and drones that had been dormant for centuries. As Earth's warships surged forward, the old satellites began to flicker to life. These ancient machines had been abandoned long ago, but their purpose had never been forgotten. They were humanity's eyes in the sky, watching, waiting, and ready to strike. Across the galaxy, alien fleets had long since assumed that Earth's once proud technology had become obsolete. The ships that had once been a symbol of human ingenuity were now relics of the past. But as the Zorathians and the other galactic powers scrambled to respond, they quickly realized just how wrong they had been. The satellites that had once sent out their signals to the stars now glowed with energy, ready to defend the homeworld they had been built to protect. On Earth's surface, there was a growing sense of anticipation. The people who had lived in isolation for so long were beginning to understand the magnitude of what was happening. The sky above them was filling with the shadow of humanity's greatest creations. The very ships that had once been the pride of Earth's military now hovered in the atmosphere, waiting for the command to strike. Deep within the command center, the general could feel the weight of history on his shoulders. He knew that this was more than just a military operation. This was humanity's return to the galactic stage, and there was no turning back. As the warships moved toward their designated launch points, a new message arrived. It was a communication from the Galactic Union, requesting immediate contact. The general stood still for a moment, thinking about the message that had been sent earlier. Earth has returned. We're not here for peace. The general pressed a button on the console, and the screen came to life with an image of the Union's leaders. They looked nervous, their eyes flicking back and forth as they spoke. "General, we demand an explanation for your sudden actions," one of the leaders said, their voice trembling. "What do you want from the galaxy?" The general stood tall, his eyes cold with determination. "We want nothing," he replied. "But if you come for Earth, you will regret it. We have been silent for too long. And now, the galaxy will know who we are." As he ended the transmission, he turned toward the window and looked out at the fleet of warships in the sky. The galaxy had made its mistake. Humanity was not weak, not forgotten, and certainly not afraid. The roar of Earth's vengeance was only just beginning. The deep hum of the warships resonated throughout the silent space as they moved in perfect formation. They were more than just machines. Each ship was a symbol of Earth's resilience, a testament to humanity's ability to survive against all odds. The galaxy had long thought humanity was weak, lost to time, but now they would soon understand the power that Earth had kept hidden for centuries. As the warships made their way into deeper space, the Zorathian fleet remained on high alert, their systems scanning the surrounding space, constantly searching for any sign of movement. They were in a state of panic, uncertain of what to expect. Earth's ships had come out of nowhere, seemingly from the dead, and now they were moving with purpose and precision. Back on Earth, the general stood in front of a large interactive map that displayed the movement of each warship as it entered deep space. He could feel the tension in the air. The planet had never been more united. As the news spread like wildfire, Earth wasn't just fighting for its survival. It was fighting for the pride that had been stolen from them, the pride of a civilization that had been underestimated and abandoned. The warships in the sky were not just weapons. They were Earth's final stand, a reminder to the galaxy that humans were never to be underestimated. The news broadcast spread quickly to every corner of Earth. People gathered in squares and public areas, their eyes fixed on the skies. They had not been forgotten. Their world had not been abandoned. Humanity's strength had been underestimated, but now it was clear that they were far from finished. As the warships made their slow journey through the stars, humanity watched with bated breath, their hearts swelling with pride. "General, One of the officers spoke as she stood beside the command center table, her voice tinged with concern. The Zorathians have begun broadcasting a warning to their allies. They claim that we are a threat to the entire galaxy. They are calling for a united defense against us. The general turned his gaze toward the officer, his face stern. "Let them call for all the help they need," he said, his voice calm but firm. "It won't matter. We are not here to negotiate. We are here to remind the galaxy of Earth's might." The general's words were more than just a declaration. They were a promise that humanity would not go quietly into the darkness. Earth's ships had not just been resurrected. They were a force of nature. The galaxy would learn the hard way that Earth was not weak, nor would it be silenced. Meanwhile, the Zorathian fleet was in turmoil. The shock of seeing the warships reawakened and now moving steadily toward them had sent waves of fear through the ranks. The leaders of the Zorathian fleet were scrambling to come up with a plan. They had underestimated the human race for so long, believing that humanity's old warships were nothing more than relics of a forgotten past. But now, with Earth's warships roaring to life, the Zorathians realized that their assumptions had been fatally wrong. The Zorathian commander, his face etched with frustration, ordered his fleet to move into defensive positions. "Prepare for engagement," he barked. "We cannot let them approach the core systems. If Earth's warships reach the central planets, it will be too late." But the Zorathians had underestimated humanity's ability to strategize. The warships of Earth were not just formidable in combat. They were also brilliant in tactics. Each ship was equipped with advanced communication systems, linking the entire fleet in a network of intelligence and strategy. With each passing minute, Earth's warships grew closer to the heart of the galaxy. In the Galactic Union's high command, the atmosphere was one of panic. The sudden appearance of humanity's warships had shaken the foundation of the Union. The council members exchanged worried glances, unable to comprehend how Earth had managed to hide such powerful forces for so long. They had assumed that humanity had long since faded into obscurity, its potential spent, and its strength a distant memory. "The humans are not our enemies," one of the Union leaders said desperately, hoping to find a peaceful resolution. "We need to negotiate with them before it's too late. There must be a way to avoid war." But the Zorathian representative, his expression cold and grim, shook his head. "There is no negotiating with them now. They've awakened from their slumber, and they're coming for us. We must unite against this threat before it's too late." Back on Earth, the warships continued their journey through space, their engines glowing with an eerie intensity. The fleet was a sight to behold. Massive ships, their hulls covered in scars of battles long past, yet they moved with the grace of predators stalking their prey. They were a reminder of what Earth had once been, a powerful force, feared and respected across the stars. The general stood in the command center, watching as his ships advanced toward their destination. He knew the galaxy would never be the same. The power that Earth held in its hands now was unimaginable. The general's fingers clenched into fists, the weight of history upon him. This was not just a battle. It was humanity's chance to reclaim its place in the universe. As Earth's warships surged forward, the general gave a quiet order to his crew. "Prepare for the first strike. When we reach the Zorathian fleet, we show them exactly what it means to challenge Earth." The crew nodded in unison, their faces set in determination. They knew what was at stake. It wasn't just about defeating their enemies. It was about restoring humanity's honor, a long-lost pride that had been erased by centuries of silence and isolation. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. They thought humanity was weak, broken. But they were about to learn the greatest lesson of all. Earth was a force to be reckoned with, and nothing could stop it now. As the warships moved deeper into enemy territory, a new message arrived, a broadcast from the Galactic Council urging humanity to stand down. The message was filled with demands for peace, promising that if Earth ceased its advance, the Union would offer safe passage and protection. The general didn't hesitate. He pressed a button on his console, and the message was transmitted back to the Council. His response was simple, direct, and filled with cold finality. Tell the Galactic Council this. We're not here to make peace. We've waited long enough. Now, the galaxy will remember who we are. The darkness of space grew ever deeper, but Earth's warships glowed brighter with each passing moment, like fierce stars rising from the abyss. The Zorethian fleet, once confident in its superiority, now found itself trembling in the face of the human resolve. For the first time in countless cycles, they questioned everything they had believed about humanity. The distance between the two fleets was closing, and tension thickened in the air. The Zorethians, having underestimated Earth's power for so long, scrambled to prepare for battle. But they knew, deep down, it might already be too late. Every Zorethian officer stood at their stations, trying to maintain composure, but the uncertainty was impossible to hide. In the heart of Earth's fleet, on the command ship, General Stroud stood, his hands clasped behind his back. His eyes were cold, watching the vast expanse of stars ahead of him. He had lived through the rise and fall of countless conflicts, but nothing compared to the weight of what was about to happen. This was humanity's chance to show the galaxy who they truly were. The communication officer spoke, his voice urgent. General, the Zorethian fleet is attempting to retreat. They're sending emergency signals to the Galactic Council, requesting reinforcements. General Stroud's lips curled into a grim smile. Let them send for help. It won't change anything now. They've made their choice. He turned to the crew around him, each person locked in their task with unflinching dedication. These men and women had fought countless battles, but today they were fighting for something far greater than survival. They were fighting for humanity's place in the universe, a place that had been denied to them for far too long. The Zorethian commander, still on high alert, issued orders to his fleet, but it was clear they were running out of time. The Earth ships were too close now. Their weapon systems, powerful and advanced beyond the Zorethians' imagination, were locked and ready. Humanity's warships weren't just a symbol of past glory. They were living weapons, filled with a fire that had not been extinguished. On Earth, the news had spread like wildfire. Across every continent, people watched as their warships prepared to make their move. Earth wasn't just a player in the galaxy anymore. It was about to take center stage. The pride that had been long suppressed now ignited in the hearts of every person on the planet. For the first time in generations, humanity felt strong, unified, and ready to face whatever the universe threw at them. Back in space, the Zorethian fleet made a final desperate attempt to fire upon Earth's approaching vessels. Their weapons, though formidable in their own right, seemed so insignificant against the power of Earth's ships. The first volley of fire flashed across the void, but the Earth warships absorbed the blast with ease. They barely flinched. General Stroud's voice rang out across the command center. Return fire. Show them we are not to be underestimated. The warships opened fire in perfect synchronization, their weapons delivering massive blows to the Zorethian fleet. It wasn't just a strike, it was a declaration. Each shot was a testament to humanity's strength, a force that had been awakened from centuries of dormancy. The battle unfolded with brutal precision. The Zorethian ships, which had once dominated the galaxy, were now under siege. Earth's warships were faster, more agile, and their firepower was unmatched. The Zorethians, for all their technological advancements, could not keep up with the sheer raw force of humanity's retribution. Every move they made was countered by the humans with surgical precision. On the front lines, the battle raged. The Zorethians struggled to hold their ground, but their confidence quickly turned to fear as the humans pushed forward. Earth's ships tore through the Zorethian fleet, their powerful laser cannons cutting through enemy vessels like a hot knife through butter. The sound of explosions echoed across the void, sending shockwaves through the fabric of space itself. The Zorethian commander watched in horror as his fleet crumbled before him. The humans had outmaneuvered them at every turn, and their weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. In desperation, The Zorathians tried to regroup, hoping to buy themselves time to call for reinforcements. But there was no time left. Earth had come for them. And now they would learn that humanity was not to be trifled with. The general stood tall, watching the destruction unfold. His heart beat steadily, each thump matching the rhythm of victory. This wasn't just about survival. It was about something much deeper. Humanity was reclaiming its place in the cosmos. No longer would they be a forgotten race, a footnote in galactic history. Earth's warships roared through the stars, and with each roar, the galaxy trembled. The Zorathian fleet was breaking apart, their numbers dwindling with every passing moment. The once proud empire, which had believed itself to be the supreme power in the galaxy, was now reduced to a scattering of broken ships, fleeing into the blackness of space. But no one was escaping the wrath of Earth. The general watched as the last of the Zorathian ships retreated, their once glorious fleet reduced to nothing more than debris. The humans had done what many thought impossible. They had turned the tide of the battle. And with it, they had sent a message to the entire galaxy. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not forgotten. And now, humanity would never again be underestimated. The silence that followed the battle was almost eerie. The human fleet, having secured victory, hovered in space, their engines still glowing. The ships stood tall, a reminder to the galaxy of the power that had once been Earth's, and that it was back in full force. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. The general knew that this victory was just the beginning. As he gazed out at the destruction left in the wake of the battle, he allowed himself a moment of pride. The galaxy had just been reminded of what humanity was capable of. And this was only the beginning. "We've made our mark," the general muttered, his voice steady. "And now, they will all know what it means to challenge humanity." The aftermath of the battle left the once proud Zorathian fleet in shambles, their ships scattered and drifting, broken and helpless. What had once been a show of arrogance now seemed like a foolish miscalculation. The mighty Zorathians, who had thought themselves untouchable, were now the ones on the defensive. Earth had struck with a vengeance that no one had anticipated, and in doing so, humanity had sent a message that would reverberate across the galaxy. No longer would they be underestimated. No longer would they be disregarded as a weak, primitive species. Humanity had emerged from the ashes of forgotten history, ready to claim its place among the stars. As Earth's warships hung in space, their weapons glowing with the residual heat of battle, there was a moment of eerie calm. The silence that followed was deafening, a contrast to the explosive roar of combat that had just transpired. The Zorathian fleet, what little remained of it, had retreated in disarray. The humans, their ships battered but triumphant, floated among the stars, their once quiet presence now an undeniable force in the universe. The destruction of the Zorathian fleet was not just a victory on the battlefield. It was the moment humanity had waited for, the moment when the galaxy would finally acknowledge them. On Earth, the people watched with bated breath as the reports of the battle came in. News of the victory spread like wildfire, igniting celebrations across every continent. For the first time in centuries, humanity stood united, proud of their strength, and fiercely aware of their place in the cosmos. No longer would they be viewed as insignificant. The Earth's warships had proved that humanity could stand toe-to-toe with the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, and they had won. Back in the command center of Earth's flagship, General Stroud stood before his crew, his face a mask of stoic pride. His heart was steady, and his thoughts were clear. The battle had been hard-fought, but it had been necessary. The Zorathians had made the mistake of underestimating humanity, and they had paid the price. But this was only the beginning. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. This was just the first chapter in humanity's resurgence, and the general knew that more challenges would come. The galaxy was vast, and there would be others who would seek to test humanity's strength. He turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," he commanded, his voice calm but resolute. Let them know this. Humanity is no longer a quiet, forgotten race. They are a force to be reckoned with. We are not their slaves. We are not their inferiors. We are not weak. The officer nodded, fingers flying over the control panel. A few moments later, a transmission was sent, broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. The message was simple, yet it carried the weight of 1,000 battles fought in the name of survival. To the Galactic Council, and all who stand against us, humanity has risen. We will no longer cower in the shadows. The galaxy will learn what happens when you challenge Earth. The words echoed across the cosmos, reaching the ears of every alien race that had ever looked down on humanity. The Galactic Council, once so confident in its control, now found itself facing a power unlike any it had ever seen. The Zorathians had failed to crush Earth, and they had made the fatal mistake of underestimating humanity's resolve. But the victory wasn't just a message to the Council. It was a message to every species in the galaxy. Humanity had fought for its place in the stars, and it would not be moved. As the weeks passed, Earth's warships patrolled the edges of their system, always vigilant, always ready. The Zorathians, nursing their wounds, regrouped, but the damage had been done. They could no longer ignore humanity. The Council, for all its might, could no longer afford to overlook Earth's strength. There were whispers throughout the galaxy of a new force rising, one that would not bow to anyone. And though some scoffed at the idea, deep down, they all knew it was true. Humanity had shown the galaxy that they would not simply roll over and accept subjugation. They would fight. And when they fought to win. The leaders of the Zorathian Empire, once so sure of their dominance, now found themselves questioning everything they had believed. The fear they had tried to instill in humanity had backfired. Instead of breaking the spirit of the human race, it had only strengthened it. The once proud empire now found itself on the defensive, scrambling to make sense of the rapid rise of this newfound power. On Earth, the human fleet continued to grow, its strength ever increasing as new ships were built and new technologies were developed. The warships that had taken down the Zorathian fleet were just the beginning. General Stroud and his crew knew that more would come. More fleets, more threats, more challenges to their existence. But Earth was no longer a passive player in the galactic drama. They were no longer sitting idly by, waiting to be pushed around. They were now a force to be reckoned with, and every alien in the galaxy knew it. As the human fleet patrolled their system, their sensors detected a new presence, a shadow in the darkness, moving slowly but steadily toward them. It was another fleet, massive and imposing. General Stroud narrowed his eyes as he studied the approaching ships. They were not Zorathian, but they were no less dangerous. They were a new threat, one that had heard the message from Earth, and they had come to test humanity's resolve. But General Stroud did not flinch. He had seen the galaxy's worst, and he had watched humanity stand strong. No matter what came next, he knew one thing for sure. Earth would not be the one to fall. "We are ready," he said, his voice steady. "Let them come." And so, as the new fleet closed in on Earth, the stage was set for another battle, another test of humanity's strength. The galaxy had already learned that Earth was not to be underestimated. Now, it would learn what happened when humanity decided to rise and claim its destiny among the stars.